strength, and you send troubles and burdens to bear. We discover carrying the load is what makes us strong. We pray for wisdom, and you send us problems. It is then revealed to us finding solutions are what help us become wise. Great God, you do work in mysterious ways, your wonders to perform. Thank you for making us part of your power and influence. May the words from our mouths and meditations from our hearts be found acceptable in your sight. Amen.
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 Okay. I pledge allegiance to
The flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty
and
and
justice for all.
Thank you, Beth, for the wonderful invocation. Happy Thursday, fellow Toastmasters. A very warm Thursday. I have not seen a 70-degree weather in November before, but hey, it's 2020. Anything goes, right? Are there any announcements from the floor this morning? Larry?
Yes, I'd like to invite everyone this Sunday, November 8th, to the Chicken Barbecue for a Cure. It's being held at 755 Erie Avenue, which is the Knights of Columbus Hall in North Tonawanda. And we will have dinners serving from 10:45 up until 3 p.m. Come on out, let us cook for you so you can enjoy the Bills game and not have to worry about it. If you have any questions, let me know.
Thank you very much, Larry. And what time is that again?
11 till 3, but dinners will be ready at 10:45.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Are there any other announcements? All right. Well, I'll turn things over back to Larry to fill in for Marty until he arrives. So, Larry, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. This morning, we'd like to welcome everyone. And the theme for today is favorite homemade breakfasts. Now, homemade breakfast could mean a lot of different things because depending on where you go, if it's a nice restaurant or what have you, or a local restaurant, you may have a homemade breakfast made by them. One of my favorites was when we were traveling, we went to Bermuda and we got off the ship and there was this little pub not too far from there. And it was very early in the morning, went and I had these delicious poached eggs on English muffins, obviously, and had a nice sauce with it and home fries. And it was absolutely delicious. The best part about it was I got to enjoy a nice brewski with my breakfast about 8 o'clock in the morning. So as we continue today, tell us something about your homemade breakfasts. And what I'd like to do at this point is invite all of our job holders today to please let us know what your role is and what you will be doing. We're going to begin with our word master of the day, which is Jill. Jill, what is our word of the day?
Let me stop chewing my Cocoa Puffs. Yeah. Our word of the day is gastronomic. Showing all the way. Okay. It is an adjective. Gourmet eating, the art and appreciation of preparing and eating good food. A particular cuisine, a particular style of cooking or dining. For example, one that is characteristic of a particular country or region. In a sentence, I'm assuming that today's meeting will be a gastronomic adventure. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Jill. Now, is it gastronomic or gastronomic?
Gastronomic. I left an R out.
Okay. Gastronomic. So, gastronomic, I could think of that in many different ways, but we'll get into that later. But we must continue. Master Charles Deacon.
My job today is to keep track of the ahs and ums. And I will report at the end of the meeting.
Thank you, Charlie. Our next roll holder this morning is our grammarian, Samir. I think I saw Samir jump on. Oh, Samir is just jumping on now. I will skip and come back. We'll go to our quote master of the day, Moklis. Moklis, I believe you're muted.
You muted Moklis?
Moklis. He's unmuted. We just.
Good morning, Toastmaster today, fellow Toastmasters and most honored guest. I wanted to start with the favorite homemade breakfast. What is the easiest one? The most delightful one is homemade pancake, hot off the skillet, with some butter and honey. So this is good. Now back to my real business. Who am I going to quote? I guess my most favorite person for quotation is none other than our statesman Benjamin Franklin. There are three things extremely hard. Steal, a diamond, and to know one's self, one's capabilities, one's limits, and one's convictions. Especially not to eat to dullness and not to drink to elevation. Also, not to speak but what may benefit others or oneself. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Moklis. We will skip back to our grammarian. Our grammarian today is Samir. Samir, tell us about your role.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. So I will be reporting on any grammatical faux pas or other errors that people have, as well as something I think that's a little unique to our club, which is noting positive uses of grammar. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Samir.
I should have used my gastronomic delight is tiramisu dessert, even though I love pancakes. Thank you.
Ooh, thank you, Moklis. This morning, I will be acting as your timer this morning. Your times will be 1.5, 1:45, and 2 minutes for table topics. You will see the green, the yellow, and the red at those times. For your speeches, typically there are 5 to 7 minutes. I will be giving you the green light at 5, the yellow light at 6, and the red light at 7. For our evaluators this morning, 2 to 3 minutes. At 2 minutes, you will receive the green. 2.5 minutes, you will receive the yellow. And at 3 minutes, you will receive the red light, which means zip it, bye-bye. And from there, we will give a report when I'm called upon by our Toastmaster Marty or by myself. Who knows? This morning, I am looking on the agenda, and I do notice that we are missing a gesture master and a jester. Does anyone have a nice little jest that they would like to offer this morning? If not, we will continue. Nobody has a pocket jest. Okay. In that case, do I have a volunteer for gesture master today? Would anyone like to take on that role to make sure? That's Larry Eggert. Larry, would you please tell us about your role?
Good morning, Mr. Stand-in Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. I'll be the gesture master today. As such, I'll be looking for uses of gestures to enhance your speaking, and I will report back at the end of the meeting. Mr. Acting Toastmaster.
Thank you, my other brother, Larry. We appreciate that. And to make sure that we are, the tongue is not working too well this morning, to make sure that our listening is going as planned, we have a quiz master that will be testing us a little bit later today, and that is Len Thornton. Len, tell us about what you're going to be doing.
Thank you, Larry. My job today is to, as you mentioned, pay attention and develop a list of questions for you all at the end of the meeting. We'll see how well everybody can pay attention at this early hour here. And my gastronomic preference for breakfast is behind me, basically. Generally consists of 2 fried eggs, either sausage links or bacon, home fry patties, which I get in bulk at Aldi. They're delicious, and dry toast. That pretty much is my go-to thing. I can make it in my sleep. Often I do, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Len. I would like to invite Ryan Flory to give us a one-liner if he would like.
Hey, good morning, Larry. Thank you. So I'm never very good at exercising or working out, but for the first time ever yesterday, I burnt 2,000 calories. I left the casserole in the oven way too long.
On that note, we will move along. Now, as we were talking about favorite homemade breakfasts, one of the things that comes to mind for me, and maybe some of you even, is one of my favorite homemade breakfasts I usually had every Thursday morning. And you know why I enjoyed it? It wasn't as much the food, but it was the fellowship of getting together with my group of AM Lockport Toastmasters at Tom's Diner. Now, I tried many different things there for breakfast. One of my favorites, they did have their oatmeal was very good, but I do love their potato pancakes. And I look forward to perhaps enjoying another breakfast with some of our Toastmasters in the near future. But as we move along, I hope that all of your day is filled with the gastronomic experiences that bode well with yourselves. This morning, we have our table topics master who is going to lead us on a journey. Please welcome Steve Smith, Table Topics.
Morning. You're talking something near and dear to my heart. When I like to cook a breakfast, I fell in love with a frittata because it's easy. You can throw everything and anything you have in the kitchen in it and just go nuts with it. And it's an easy breakfast. It's a very filling breakfast, and it's time consuming to make. But so my question, I see I have a number of people to pick on. How about Margot? I see you don't have a job yet.
No, I do not.
Now I cook breakfast. I love to go out right out of the garden and grab some hot peppers and dice them up and get them right in those eggs and potatoes. Now my question to you is, if you're cooking breakfast, heat or no heat? You like to light it up or not?
Oh, thank you for giving me this wonderful question this morning. My breakfast, quite frankly, is not a real gastronomic delight, but is my coffee. I usually get up and I'm up for 2 or 3 hours, and all of a sudden I go, I'm hungry. But when you ask about spicy food, Steve, not for me. I have the dullest palate on the entire planet, which is a real challenge because not breakfast, but dinner, my go-to is doing maybe a spaghetti sauce, something nice and mild. If my husband comes home and is making dinner, he makes chili, peppers, onions, spices. So I have a pile of rice and a little bit of chili. In the morning, if he's making breakfast, he's making an omelet. Again, eggs, spices, peppers, onions, everything that he can use to enhance it. And I'm having the scrambled eggs, nice and plain. So, as I said, breakfast is not my thing. I would just really like to sit here and enjoy my wonderful cup of coffee and savor all that gastronomic delight? Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you. Now, the next facet of breakfast that occurs to me is something that you're either on one side of the fence or the other. There is no middle ground. Coffee. Now, I have to have my coffee in the morning. Jill, on the other hand, does not drink coffee, doesn't like it. So as I say, there's no middle ground. So when we think of coffee, first name that comes to my mind is Dave Licata. Dave, coffee or no coffee in the morning? Ugh.
Mr. Table Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters and guests. My journey to coffee was rather strange because I did not drink coffee until my father put me in charge of the Licata Brothers Wholesale Coffee Division. And at that time, I was supremely annoyed because I had taken the place of a fella that sold coffee, knew everything there was to know about coffee, but didn't drink it. Now I've arrived at this coffee plateau, and I appreciate it in all its gastronomic splendor, because as I get older, and I hate to admit this, I really need that coffee in the morning. And I have suffered the dull thud pain of cafe deprivation headaches. And I don't like that at all. So I go out there and I have a coffee, and then for lunch I have a cola, and then I have 2 aspirin to get rid of it. It's not very pleasant. But I'm not going to talk that much about the use of my French press, even though I think that makes the best coffee. But I will share with you, get in the habit. Okay, this is for the retired wing of the AM Lockport Toastmasters. The people that have to go to work every day don't have time to do this. But if you grind the whole beans, that's not a bad idea. And use beans when you grind. The grind should look like gravel and not sand, because over grinding over extracts the beans.
Right.
And don't be alarmed if you see a lot of bubbles at the top of your coffee, because that means it's great coffee, because those bubbles are made by the oil from the coffee. I actually had customers complain to me that, oh my God, there's soap in my coffee. And then I would have to drive out and calm them down and say, no, this is what makes my coffee better. So for me, it's 100% Colombian fresh grind. And then I'm ready to face my day. And I've noticed here at the meetings, because I don't have coffee until after the meeting, that sometimes I can't even get a sentence out. But I want to thank you for this opportunity to once again bloviate about that gastronomic specialty coffee. Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Dave. Now, finally, what hit me is, now if nothing was a factor, the health consequences, prep time, the expense, whether or not you had the ingredients, what would your idea of a perfect breakfast be? How about Phil Russell?
For my gastronomic delight, doing this would be great. Steak and eggs, medium rare, over easy, home fries, not the little chopped up ones, but the big chunks made out of salt potatoes. What a delight. Then we go over, we have toast. I like the Italian toast with a little butter, a little jelly on the side. Coffee, of course, coffee. But it's got to be Irish coffee, you might understand. It has to be that. Then, once we've finished breakfast, it's nice to sit back with a little Cavassier and a nice big Cuban cigar. Now, what more could you have in the world that would add to your gastronomic delight but that cigar and Cavassier to dip the cigar into? And then, of course, you don't light the cigar yourself. You have the maitre d' come over and light it for you, clip it and light it. Oh, you're in heaven. Waited on, steak and eggs, put a little hot sauce on the side, some ketchup. Oh, salt and pepper, maybe a little dash of garlic. I'm in heaven. I'm truly in heaven. That's just the way I would like it to be. Now, when I'm finished here, though, I like Steve's idea of the frittata, but I make mine differently. I scramble up eggs, I heat up the pan, butter, get it all around in there, about a 9-inch pan. Then I scramble up the eggs, pour them right in, put a top on it, let it fry on that side, flip it over once it's all done. Then I put cheese on there, then a little bit of onions, tomatoes, things like that, flip it over. And then on the side, I have bacon. Mr. Topics Master.
Thank you, Phil. It might interest you to know that when I'm making one of these for myself, I load up a 10-inch skillet. And I like your idea of putting cheese on top. I do that every now and then. But let's see, can we get a Wordmaster report?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. I am pleased to say that everybody used the word today. Margot and Phil used it twice. Dave used it once to my recollection. I don't like a hot breakfast because of the Sjogren's syndrome. My mouth is messed up, and even the slightest a bit of heat can put it into total burn phase. Unfortunately, it happens quite often, even though I don't even like heat. So there you go.
And just for the record, I always warn her when I'm lighting something up because I know she can't tolerate it. I'm not that evil, regardless of what some of you may think. Now, can I get a timer's report?
Yes, you may, Mr. Table Topics Master. This morning was an interesting day to time. Margot, 1 minute and 11 seconds.
Ooh.
You were a little short. Dave Licata, on the other hand, 2 minutes and 40 seconds. He was a little long. Phil, 2 minutes and 12. Right on time.
Thank you.
Mr. Table Topics Master.
The key to success, show up.
Well, I will turn it back over to you, Larry.
Thank you very much, Mr. Table Topics Master. I did notice that our Toastmaster of the day has joined us. I will turn the meeting over to Marty. Marty, welcome.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you, everyone. Nice to see everyone this morning. Thanks for getting going without me. I knew you would. I was up. I didn't sleep well last night, and I got a bad excuse. I didn't sleep last night. I made coffee. I loaded up on Zoom. I sat down for a minute. I got up, went to reheat my coffee, and I decided, I'm going to lay down for a minute. 7:15, I wake up. I'm supposed to be on, but I logged on at 6:30. So don't lay back down once you're awake. Keep your feet on the ground. I'd like to just touch on the theme briefly, how I came up with the theme. I have a very special memory that takes me back to this homemade breakfast favorite. When I was a young boy, probably 10 or 11 years old, I was down at my grandfather's house. His name was Clarence Schwack, and he was a teacher at Newfane for a number of years. This was probably in the mid 1970s, I'd say. And picture this, we were in an old, small little country home. I would go down periodically and I would stay overnight to visit, maybe do some homework and do some visiting. I have this memory that I'll never forget. My grandfather would wake me up and I could smell the sweetness of cantaloupe. I could smell whole wheat toast. I could smell the oatmeal, the old-fashioned oatmeal on the stove. And what else did he have? I think he had postum or coffee. And I can still smell it to this day. If I close my eyes, I can take myself back to that down on Wheeler Road in Newfane, New York. And that was the start of my hometown breakfast favorite. It was always something simple, but it was always something healthy. I want to thank my grandfather for that memory. And at this point, I'd like to make a toast. If everyone could raise a glass or a cup. To your hometown breakfast favorites, to new and old, start your day on a nutritious way with a hometown breakfast favorite. Hear, hear. Okay, at this point, we will move into the prepared speaking portion of the meeting. Our first evaluator this morning is Carol Ann Halstead, and Carol will be evaluating speech by Mark Campos. Carol?
I think you've got the evaluators mixed up, Marty.
Yeah.
Good morning, Mr. Toastmaster. I'm going to be stepping in for evaluator 1 for Mark Campos. So this morning, Mark will be giving a 5 to 7 minute speech, and for better or for worse, it will not include too much gastronomic information. The purpose of the speech is to take a previous speech that had been done, apply the feedback that they had received during that first speech, and refine and then give the speech again. So we're going to see what Mark can do when he's had an opportunity to apply feedback and really improve, which is going to be a treat for all of us. I think it's going to be a well-prepared speech. And Mr. Toastmaster, I know you do have the title. I got that email. Is that correct? Okay, perfect. Then I will pass it back to the Toastmaster to introduce our first speaker, Mark Campos. Marty, you are muted if you.
I had everything ready. I just lost my place. Hold on a second.
That's okay. Would you like me to just introduce him?
You know what, go ahead. I had it backed up on my phone, the agenda with the title and everything, and I lost it. Yes, thank you, Ryan.
No worries at all. So our first speaker this morning is Mark Campos. He's going to be giving a 5 to 7 minute speech from Pathways titled Challenges and Opportunities. Mark Campos, Challenges and Opportunities.
Thank you, Ryan. Good morning, fellow Toastmasters. I've been a Toastmaster now for 16 years, and as you might expect, that has presented me with a whole lot of speaking opportunities, most of which I have completely forgotten about. A few of them might have been memorable in my own mind, things that went really well, some that certainly didn't go very well. But today I wanted to share with you a story of what I consider my finest Toastmasters moment, a moment I'm really proud of. And it involved a competition. Now, when it comes to competitions in Toastmasters, I've been pretty inconsistent. I don't always participate, and I haven't always had the best of luck. But one particular season in the fall of 2012, I was really lucky in that I went on a nice run doing evaluations, and I made it to the District 65 Fall Conference to participate in the evaluation contest. And this is something I was really proud of. I was excited about it. Now, the fall conference in this particular case was being held in Utica, New York, which is about the most distant location in the district when you're in Western New York. It's tough to get a lot of support at the higher level contests because we all have busy lives, but one of our dearly departed Toastmasters took the ride with my daughter and I, our good friend, we miss him dearly, Ed Bird. So on this particular Friday afternoon, the contest was at 8 o'clock at night in Utica. Met Ed, it was a beautiful day, nice weather out, that's not going to be a factor. Well planned, I leave an extra hour of time to get there, no problem. What could go wrong? Well, once we got past Syracuse, we found out what could go wrong. We were dead stopped on the thruway, bumper to bumper traffic, not moving. And I'm not sure how long we were there, but it was a pretty long time. Now, spending so much time with Ed, we were chit-chatting. He was interested in a variety of topics, and that was helping keep me distracted. I think Ed was far more nervous about us being late than I was, but the conversation was keeping me distracted. Fortunately, at some point, whatever happened, whatever the accident was cleared, and we went on our way. And as I'm driving, I'm doing the math in my head about what time we'll get there and will I make it. I didn't really anticipate a problem. We pull in Utica at 7:45. I ask Ed very nicely, because my daughter's only 12 that's with us. I said, Ed, do me a favor, please just keep an eye on her, get her in the room. I've got to hightail it. I've got to get there. I'm running late. I walk very briskly because I'm in my suit, very briskly, trying not to look too frazzled. I find the conference room where the contest is taking place. I walk up to the desk and there's a woman there and I say, hi, I'm Mark Campos. I'm here for the evaluation contest. And she looks up at me with a really icy stare and an audible sigh and yells over to somebody else, oh, he is here. Now you could imagine this was not the welcome I anticipated after my odyssey from Western New York, but I bit my tongue. See, what I didn't realize is, in my mind, I was fine. I was there with 15 minutes to spare, no problem. They really want you there like 45 minutes early for all the preparation and things that take place, but who knew? And certainly I didn't plan on an accident on the thruway. Next, another woman comes running over and she is clearly flustered and frazzled. Yeah, it must be really difficult for her at this point. And she says, well, we've already drawn positions. You're just going to have to go first. Now, for those of you that have never competed in an evaluation contest, ideally you want to go last because it gives you more time to formulate your thoughts and get it all together in a cohesive whole. Whereas when you're first, you're under the gun. You've got to put it together pretty quickly. I bit my tongue again and whatever you need, I'll go whenever you want. Lastly, another gentleman comes running over and he's holding the lavalier mic and he says to me, everyone that is competing has had an opportunity to test out the lavalier mic to make sure they're comfortable. Would you like to clip it on, go up front and try it out? I take a look around the room. The room is already half full of the audience. I'm not going to walk up there and in front of half the room and say, testing, 1, 2, 3, testing. I told them, look, forget it. Don't worry about it. So I sit down and clearly I am aggravated. I'm agitated by how things have gone. I'm agitated how I've been welcomed and I want to do well. So I'm feeling the pressure. But there's not a lot of time to wallow in this. The test speaker comes out and he gives just a wonderful speech. So entertaining, so dynamic, really wonderful speech. And they escorted us out where we were given the time to put together our evaluations. And at this point, it's the first time I'm really flustered. I'm frazzled, I'm getting keyed up almost to the point of not having it in a controlled way. And at some point I said to myself, okay, that's it, you're done. Put the pen down. You're not going to wring your hands over this evaluation until they come get you. You're going to take a few breaths, you're going to relax. You got this. You know what to do. You know how to do this. So I took a few minutes. They brought me in. And I remember shaking the contest master's hands. And something I was never really conscious of before or since was, as a speaker, the importance of your stance. Because I have this vivid memory of taking a few strides away from the podium, the lectern, and just taking a really solid stance, almost like an athletic stance that just was so comforting and made me feel grounded, and just something I'd never really been conscious of before. I delivered the evaluation. I don't remember the mechanics of it that much, but I had a feeling it went pretty well. And now I get to listen to everybody else's evaluation. And there were 7 other people because it was the first and second place winners from each division. And as we're going through, I'm listening to them and saying, "Yeah, I think I might still have a shot here. I think I'm still good." And amazingly enough, I wound up winning the contest. Now, fellow Toastmasters, I've always wanted to share this story, but I was reluctant to do so because I was fearful that it might come across as self-promoting, given how it had the happy ending. But there are a couple of things I wanted to share with you, the real reasons why I deliver this speech. When you're a Toastmaster, by definition, you have shown a willingness to step outside of your comfort zone. We all follow a similar arc in Toastmasters. I think we progress very rapidly, and at some point, we begin to plateau off. We're making gains, but not at the same rate. And I think it's critical that we always continue to challenge ourselves, to put ourselves in difficult situations like competitions, because they give us the opportunity to further learn and grow and become better, especially in a competitive format, because the whole iron sharpens iron philosophy. You're going up against some great Toastmasters, you learn from them and you elevate your game. The second element here is, as I shared in this story, a lot went wrong that day, and it could have been really easy to pack it in. But it's really evidence that as Toastmasters, with the skills that we develop over time, that we can really overcome any situation. It's easy to give a speech when everything's perfect, but we all have the ability to give a great speech or an evaluation when things are less than perfect. So fellow Toastmasters, continue to seize the challenges and turn them into opportunities. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you for that wonderful speech, Mark. Our next speaker, Dr. Gerald Stevens, will be evaluated by Thomas Heldwein. Thomas, please share Gerald's objectives.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Dr. Stevens, Gerald Stevens' speech was on the roster, but I don't believe it is part of Pathways. I believe it's just a speech. He can correct me if I'm wrong on that. The speech is entitled A Mexican Adventure, and it's 5 to 7 minutes. I'd have to say that Gerald is the only other member, I believe, that's traveled to more countries than me, with over 29 countries and 48 of the 50 states. He's a very impressive traveler. And so if this one is one of his best stories of an adventure, I can't wait to hear it. So over directly to Mr. Stevens.
Good morning, fellow Toastmasters, and we have no guests. It is said that a journey begins with of 1,000 miles begins with a single step by Lao Tse. That's a Chinese proverb. My Mexican adventure began with a single step as I got outside the airport. And there waiting for me was my sidekick, faithful friend from back in the college days, my friend Damon, my best man. He was there. He kind of staggered up a little bit. He was there the day before. He drove in and he was drunk as a skunk. He drank tequila all night and probably a few cervezas with the locals at a bullfight. He reeked of tequila. It was bad. I thought to myself, giddy up, here we go, Mexican adventure. Sure enough, it was quite the adventure. I remember 3 things from this adventure the most, excluding all of the smooth tequila. It was a good time. I have to show you a few pictures to start off, so I'm going to share my screen. There we go. So outside Mexico City, there is a place called Teotihuacan. It is the Great Pyramids of Mexico. It's only about 30 miles outside Mexico, and it is huge. You can see these pyramids here. Some of you may know of it, some of you may not. It is amazing. And there's another picture here I want to show you. Just the next slide. That is how steep these pyramids are. That is the highest one, the Temple of the Sun, about 200 feet high. So you got to be in a little bit of good shape to experience that. I'm going to stop the share because I just wanted to show a few pictures to you guys. So this place was built by the Aztecs about 250 AD. So it is pretty darn old. You saw the little pyramids around there. It's about 2,000 feet between one pyramid. The highest one there was the Temple of the Sun that I showed you. And all the way across is the Temple of the Moon. Tons of pyramids there. You go there and you walk around the whole place. You can go to the top of the pyramid. You can't do that in other pyramids. These things are old. They don't let you crawl over these things in other places. They let you do that in Mexico. They don't care. You can just walk around. When I got to the top of that Temple of the Sun, I stood there and I just looked out upon all the ruins and I thought about what it must have been like back in the day of the Aztecs. All the warriors walking around with their spears and colorful garb, the nobles walking around in a festival, probably with gold and jewels, and King Montezuma himself, possibly standing right exactly where I was, presiding over religious festivals. I thought this is the coolest thing ever. And my cat has decided to visit us, so I'm going to put him down. I thought about what it would have been like when the change of power came, when Hernan Cortez came there with only 400 people and had a battle with overwhelming forces. He had better armor, he had better weaponry, and he allied with the fellow nobles there to overthrow Montezuma. He made a strategical move of attacking during a festival where all the nobles were there, and he slaughtered them all. And he brought back all the gold and jewels for Mother Spain. Very cool to see. Second thing that I remember from my trip to Mexico is Acapulco. So in Acapulco, they have this thing called the El Cabrera cliff divers, and they dive from 100 feet up all the way down to this narrow ravine. And they have shows that go on every hour. These guys are crazy. It's really far, and I would never do it in my lifetime. I watched them climb up with no ropes, people between 15 to 70 years of age. Every hour at nighttime, they light a torch and they dive in the water, which puts it out. Impressive. Popularized by the famous Elvis movie, Fun in Acapulco. So I had a good time with that. The third thing I remember was on the way out of Acapulco, driving across the border with my friend. My friend at this point was very tanned and he looked like the locals. He had a little red bandana on his head, and we're trying to cross the border. He did not bring a driver's license or a passport. So we were at the border, detained. He had a birth certificate. So 3 hours, they went through his car and everything, and a crime occurred. We had 2 cases of the best cerveza in the back of his car. What do you think happened to that cerveza? The border guys definitely had a party that night with the best cerveza ever. The injustice. So I recommend, fellow Toastmasters, that you do go to Mexico as well. See the pyramids, go to Acapulco, maybe go to a beach, Cancun, or Chichen Itza, which is another step pyramid from the Mayans, which I have not been to. But definitely check it out. Go to a safe area. Anywhere there are tourists, stay in the main drag, you'll be fine. Buenas suertes, mi amigos, which means good luck, my friends. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you for that speech, Dr. Gerald Stevens. Our next speaker, Eric Schneider. Eric will be evaluated by Carol Ann Halstead. Carol.
Yes, I have the privilege of evaluating Eric this morning. He's working in Pathways Level 1 Innovative Planning. And his purpose today is to learn or review some basic research methods and present a well-organized, well-researched speech on any topic. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Carol. Eric Schneider, for those of you that don't know, you all should, you're all members of AM Lockport. Eric is a proud club president of AM Lockport. He's also an excellent promoter. I don't know if any of you have seen his Facebook posts, but Eric is always promoting AM Lockport, always promoting the opportunity to other people, and is always getting a great message out there about Toastmasters and especially AM Lockport. At this point, I'd like to introduce Eric Schneider. The title of his speech, A Tribute to Sir Sean Connery, 1930 to 2020. A tribute to Sir Sean Connery, Eric Schneider.
Connery, Sir Sean Connery, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. This morning, I am paying a tribute to the late legendary Hollywood icon who brought James Bond 007 to the big screen. Here's a look back and tributes to the late icon. Sadly, he passed away last Saturday at the age of 90. Sean Connery was a very influential person in my life. And I like to say in my own words, I was a young teenager when I started watching the Bond movies. I didn't realize at first there were 5 different actors portraying the British secret agent. What stuck out to me was Sean Connery. Now, not only was he the first actor to play 007, it was his charm, his humor. He was very tall. He was like about 6'1.5". And his voice, his Scottish accent was fantastic. Saying those words, Bond, James Bond, I was completely blown away. I remember a time when I was in 5th grade, I did my own gun barrel sequence like he did in the beginning of all of his movies. What prompted me was to do an Instagram poll to see if I look like him as James Bond. The results were, now get ready, 60% said yes, and 40% said no. It was a very tight race. He was a fantastic actor from Bond to Indiana Jones to The Untouchables and beyond. I looked, the tributes kept pouring in on Sean Connery, and here are some of the people that worked with him and knew him personally throughout the years as an actor. Harrison Ford, who co-starred in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, said in a statement to Variety magazine, "He was my father, not in life, but in Indy 3. You don't know pleasure until someone pays you to take Sean Connery for a ride in the sidecar of a Russian motorcycle bouncing along a bumpy, twisty mountain trail and getting him to watch him squirm. God, we had fun. If he's in heaven, I hope they have golf courses. Rest in peace, dear friend. The James Bond producers, Barbara Broccoli and Michael G. Wilson, said in their statement on their social media outlet, they said, "We are devastated by the news of the passing of Sir Sean Connery. He was and shall always be remembered as the original James Bond, whose inedible entrance into cinema history began when he announced those unforgettable words, the name's Bond, James Bond. He revolutionized the world with his gritty and witty portrayal of the sexy and charismatic secret agent. He is undoubtedly largely responsible for the success of the film series, and we shall be forever grateful to him." Pierce Brosnan, another Bond actor, followed in Sean Connery's footsteps and said this about Sean Connery: "Sir Sean Connery, you're my greatest James Bond as a boy and as a man who became James Bond himself. You cast a long shadow of cinematic splendor that will live on forever. You led the way for us all who followed in your iconic footsteps. Each man in his turn looked to you in reverence and admiration as we forged ahead with our own interpretations of the role. You were mighty in every way as an actor, as a man, and will remain so until the end of time. You were loved by the world and will be missed. God bless, rest now, and be at peace." Director George Lucas, alongside with Steven Spielberg with Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, said about Connery as Professor Henry Jones Sr. "Sir Sean left an inedible mark in cinematic history. He will always hold a special place in my heart as Indy's dad. With an air of intelligent authority, and sly sense of comic mischief, only someone like Sean Connery could render Indiana Jones immediately into boyish regret or relief through a stern, fatherly chiding or rejoiceful hug. I am thankful for having had the good fortune to have known and worked with him. My thoughts are with his family." There are so much more tributes to Sean Connery, but all in all, he'll be truly missed around the world, especially me. I encourage everyone to take the time to watch any movie that he starred in, like Highlander or The Untouchables, The Hunt for Red October. Any of his movies, he did fantastic. I would like you all to raise a glass, and I would like to say to Sir Sean Connery, may your movies continue to fulfill our lives for years to come. To your great acting. Hear, hear. I also have a video from the James Bond account, and I would like to show you the movie. I'll stop it right there in the interest of time, but I'll post more at the end of the meeting. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Eric, thank you for that wonderful speech. This time I'd like to call for a timer's report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Toastmaster. This morning, we had the pleasure of listening to 3 great speeches. One about a trip to Utica, another one on a trip to Mexico, and another one about James Bond. Well, I must say, as timer, my role was to time those speeches. If you notice, there was a green light, a yellow light, then a red light, and then I waited, and 2 of our speakers, their ships sailed. Mark Campos, 8 minutes and 50 seconds. Eric Snyder, 8 minutes and 26 seconds. Coming in on time, Dr. Gerald, 6 minutes and 45 seconds. Gerald was our only one that made time. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you very much. Thank you to our speakers. Thank you to our participants this morning for all your hard work. At this point, I'd just like to briefly touch on the theme one more time before going into calling for the reports. So my hometown breakfast favorite restaurant, if you will, is the one, the only Lockport's Pine Street restaurant in Lockport. Having lived in Lockport for over 50 years, I've come to actually enjoy Lockport's. And one of the reasons I like Lockport's is because they give back to the community. I don't know if they currently do, but I know in the past they would buy actually beef and other items from the Niagara County Fair. So they were supporting the county in that regard. And I always like when people in the community support other people in the community. My favorite breakfast food there would have to be the 222, the sausage, the French toast, and the scrambled eggs. And I can taste it and I can smell it right now. Lockport's Pine Street restaurant, for food that tastes good, price right, the price is right, and they have wonderful service. I definitely would recommend Lockport's Pine Street restaurant for your gastronomic experience in Lockport. At this point, I'm going to call for reports. I'm going to save Wordmaster for last, so anyone that hasn't used it can use it.
Evaluators, Marty?
I'll start with, oh yes. Hold on one second.
Marty, we
Yes.
need evaluations.
Hold on one second. Okay, our first evaluator, hold on one second, bear with me. Our first evaluator evaluating Mark's speech is Ryan. Ryan, please evaluate Mark's speech.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and especially Mark. This morning, we got to listen to Mark take us through a journey that some of us have taken or might be taking in the future on our way to a District 65 competition. I really want to give Mark kudos for really taking us through a story that we could all relate to. And between the eye contact with the camera and the vocal variety that you utilized, Mark, for different characters, different situations, I could tell and I could stay in the mood of the story that you were trying to tell. So I definitely want to give kudos there. It was relatable. again, I think those are moments that we all either eventually will be in or have been in. We can all picture ourselves on the 90 or the 190 or the 290 or the 33 or any of the other numerous roads that we've been stuck on around these areas. The gestures that you did, especially for a Zoom conversation, I think were very good. You had the hand across the screen, you tucked your head and brought it slowly back up just to convey the mood of the situation you were in. And, you know, I really think, again, that we could all relate and be there. A couple of things. I really think you could bring in some props, additional items, just something to help us build the scene. And I would say use a little bit more vivid imagery to really bring us there with you. I could picture it, but I wasn't brought there. When you're telling a really good story, you want your audience to be staring through you, not at you, because you want them to be thinking in their head like, oh, I remember that. Oh, I was there. And it's just that extra little bit that could bring you to the next level. One other thing is that whenever you were looking to collect your thoughts, you were looking off to the lower corner of the screen. And so just be conscious of that nonverbal movement there as you collect your thoughts. Try to figure out a different way to keep your eye contact or to bring in purpose with that movement. Pull something in or pull us back in as you reset yourself and look down. But honestly, great clarity. I could understand everything. I didn't really hear any filler words. You used wallow, which is always a fantastic piece to improve. And I think you were confident throughout the entire thing, comfortable. And again, I think as you brought in different characters, the vocal variety and the enthusiasm was there. And I could understand the conversations you were having as though I was there. So thank you again, Mark. And thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Ryan. Our second speaker today was Dr. Gerald Stevens. Evaluating Dr. Gerald is Thomas Heldwein.
Good morning, everyone. Mr. Stevens, Dr. Stevens, is a good public speaker and he's a good storyteller. So I knew I had to bring my A game this morning. Some of the best things I liked was how he actually used his hands and his whole physical body while standing. He was staggered to show his friend drunk. He looked around upon the top of the pyramid and really brought us there into the story. And one of the onomatopoeias that he even exemplified is when he said smooth tequila. Onomatopoeia sounds like the word, the action. He did use props. He had some pictures. He had a good tone. One of the things is he usually talks between a 5 and a 9, I would say, as far as tone. I would love to see him bring in 1 or 2 moments where he goes with a 4 to a 1, just kind of bring us in. And what do you think they found in our back seat? You know, you could have like emphasized that area more. One of the things I thought, although we do talk about standing and being able to speak better and from a standing position, I think the improvement I would have made on this speech, if you were to give it again, would be to say, do it from a sitting position. It would have taken out all the distractions I noticed. Help with the photos, leaning in and trying to do that. You would have been a little bit more positioned to be able to do that smoothly. The cat interruption, I don't know if it was a disruption or if he was literally almost next to the keyboard and going to cause havoc. Also, the angle of your camera, I don't know if like looking up someone's nose when they're standing is kind of a little distracting, but it did allow you to have a lot of better gestures. And what an adventure that he did take us on. We went from pyramids to cliff drivers and even got to be there for a crime. When I first read the title of the speech, of Mexican Adventure, I was afraid that with the word of the day, that it would be a gastronomic adventure. But luckily it wasn't. It was an adventure through time and one of his experiences and reasons to visit Mexico. And that would be the end of my evaluation timer. So what I do want to share, though, while I have a chance, is a story about my favorite food for breakfast, since that's the theme, chocolate chip pancakes. The secret is a little bit of brown sugar and a little bit of salt added to the pre-made mixes or whatever recipe you have to make them more like a cookie, to make the dough more like cookie dough. And you mix the chocolate chips in ahead of time so that they don't burn and come in contact with the stove itself. I've been doing this since I was 13. I would say I've made tons and tons of chocolate chip pancakes. And I would have to say they're one of my favorite breakfast foods, so I learned how to make them. Incredibly delicious. And with that, I'll turn it back over to the Toastmaster for the third evaluation.
Thank you, Thomas. At this point, I'd like to call on Carol Ann Halstead, who will be evaluating Eric Schneider's speech. Thank you, Carol.
I was very excited about evaluating Eric today since my all-time favorite actor is Sean Connery. He gave us a history of his watching of the 007 movies, and he had it researched well. You could tell that he very much admired the actor he was giving a tribute to. He did also share the tributes of the fellow actors had of Sean Connery. He did go through the speech very smoothly, without much hesitation. He was very organized. It went along from topic to topic smoothly. He did share some scenes of the movies, which brought back memories to all of us who are 007 fans. And I especially like the little shot of the golden lady from Goldfinger. And the only problem he had was it did go a little over time. So maybe if he'd just practiced going through the whole speech to realize that it was getting a little long, maybe one less tribute or a little less of the scenes from the movies. However, it was just very, very enjoyable, and I think it just a very well-organized speech that brought back many memories for us Sean Connery fans. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Carol. This time I'd like to call on Larry McKenzie for a timers report. Larry.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. This morning, our evaluators did quite well. Our first evaluator, Ryan, 2 minutes, 52 seconds. Our second evaluator, Thomas Heldwein, 2 minutes, 37 seconds. And Carol Ann, 2 minutes, 23 seconds. All three have qualified. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Larry. As the ballot will be sent around, please make sure that you vote for best evaluator. At this point, I would like to go through the reports. As I said, we'll save the word master for last. Charlie, the deacon, our master.
Mr. Toastmaster. Ahs and ums. Ours, there are not too many ahs this morning, except for Carol. Carol went more than 5. And I'm not quite sure whether there's one for me, whether Margot realized it, but she started out with an ah. So that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. Next, our grammarian, Samir.
So I did not notice too many errors. I thought Margot had a hanging so as a transition word. I did notice some good grammar, or at least interesting in terms of Mark using the phrase audible sigh, which evokes something different than just the normal sigh, which is supposed to be itself a sound word. And Eric at one point said he may have had gastronomy on his mind. He said the inedible entrance into cinematic history. I think he may have meant indelible. But other than that, I think everyone did pretty good. I didn't notice any glaring errors. Thank you.
Thank you, Samir. Our gesture master, Larry Eggert, I believe. Larry, thanks for stepping in. Were you gesture master or grammarian?
I'm gesture master.
Gesture master, GM. Okay, thank you, Larry.
Thank you again, Mr. Toastmaster, and good morning again, fellow Toastmasters. Looking at this collage of movement in front of me, sometimes again can be difficult to be gesture master, but I did notice a few small things. First of all, Len had strategic use of his eyebrows as he talked. When he wanted to make a point, he would raise one eyebrow or the other. And then when he really wanted to make a point, he put both up as he talked. Larry, my other brother Larry, had the Donald Trump thing going. He was occasionally doing this as he spoke, which was good. Trumpism, I guess you could call that. Steve was interesting. As he wanted to make a point, he would lean in and then he would lean back out. Margot had a strategic use of coffee cup. She had her hands on her coffee cup, and then once in a while she'd bring it up and then put her hands back down. That was interesting. Dave, as he changed his focus as he talked, he used his hands to redirect as he spoke, as he changed direction. Mark Campos had some strategic eye movement. I think Ryan already talked about that. Dr. Stevens, smooth tequila. And there's nothing wrong, by the way, sometimes with drinking in the morning. I'm just going to say that just as an aside. Marty, whenever he wanted to stop and change direction, he would put his hand up, which was interesting, as he was looking for his button. I don't know if he was trying to block his face or not. And Thomas, as he spoke, as he got really into his speaking, his eyes got really big, and then they would go back to just like that. That's a little scary. I'm sorry. And other than that, I do have an Ed Bird story. Somebody brought up Ed Bird, and some of you might have known Ed. This is kind of an aside, but it has to do with the gastronomic field that we're talking about today. Ed Bird, when I was first a Toastmaster, I was sitting there drinking my cup of tea because I don't drink coffee. And he said, you have to try some bee pollen. Has anybody ever had bee pollen? Well, it's an energy supplement. So I dumped 2 packets that he gave me into my tea, and I went to work that day, and until about noon, everything moved really, really fast. So I don't know if bee pollen is part of the gastronomic part of our discussion, but it certainly turned me on that day. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Larry. Rest in peace, Ed Bird. I have many memorable stories of Edward Bird. I'm sure many of you do also. Our quiz master, Len, thanks for stepping in, Len. Stepping up.
Thank you, Marty. Yes, it was an interesting meeting. We had 20 members, and it looked like everybody stayed awake for this. Let's see what we've got here. Thomas Heldwein used a 6-syllable word. Anybody catch that?
Onomatopoeia.
Onomatopoeia, indeed. Very good. Let's see here. Gerald visited which temple first, which was built in 250 AD?
Temple of the Sun.
Temple of the Sun. Yep. Sorry, Gerald had to kick in there. And what was stolen by the Border Patrol as they came back into the U.S.?
2 cases of
cerveza.
Is the cerveza.
Just
Exactly.
beer, right?
I
Shame.
could just interject, it wasn't stolen, it was taken as
Confiscated.
evidence
Yeah.
and may have been
Funny how
destroyed
cop
later
became
that
a
evening.
verb.
It had to be tested. We've had
There you
this
go.
before. When it comes to, they have to take a certain percentage to test it to be proper. That happens with tertiary juice concentrate all the time. Mhm.
Exactly, Margot.
Control,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Our-
We had to clear
our-
that up.
Counterfeit beer coming in the U.S. No.
Mhm.
Yeah, our key to
100% tested.
our key to getting a beer into Mexico was you put the cheap beer on top, hide the good beer, and you make a nice gift to the police, the fine policemen who are taking over. They appreciate it. They appreciate your welcoming, but then go into town and buy your tequila there.
Gotcha. On to the next one here. When Mark was competing down in Utica on that fateful evening, as he took the stage to give his evaluation, what was he immediately aware of?
Stance.
Getting the right stance.
His
Yeah,
stance.
right stance.
Exactly. What kind of headaches does Dave Licata get?
Many.
PMS.
Caffeinated headaches.
Decaffeinated.
Coffee deprivation headaches was the term he used.
Yeah.
Coffee deprivation. We've all been there. Margot describes her palate how?
Oh, wimpy palate.
It's the dullest on the planet. Dullest palate on the planet. Okay, let's see what we got. Marty had a colorful expression for staying awake. What term did he use after he gets up to stay awake?
On his feet. Stay on your feet.
On the floor.
Close.
Feet on the floor.
Yeah, feet on the
Keep your
floor.
feet on the ground. Keep your feet on the ground. Yeah. Yeah. Once they go up back on the couch or the bed, yeah, you're gonna sleep again. Okay. Marty's favorite breakfast at Laporte's is called what?
222.
222. And as I heard that, I thought to myself, going back into my youth, there was a show called Room 222. Anybody remember that?
Yes.
It starred the lovely actress Karen Valentine. It started 1969. It ran for 5 seasons, won an Emmy Award in 1970. And it was on a Friday night. It followed the Brady Bunch and the Partridge Family. And then that Room 222 came on. And then that was followed by The Odd Couple and Love American Style. Talk about must-see TV. That was a great night of viewing as a kid there. Really enjoyed that.
Talk about aging yourself.
And finally, I just wanted to alert people. I heard something yesterday. A lovely actress in Hollywood stabbed herself yesterday. Terrible. What was her name? It's Reese.
Witherspoon?
Witherspoon?
No, with a knife, actually.
Oh, dear God. I'm not paying my dues.
Wow.
I take that back. Margot pays my dues.
So you were right on both hearts.
Hey, Marty.
Yes,
Got
sir.
a general evaluator?
Yes. We have a word master report, and then we're going to our general evaluator. Word master Jill Roaring.
Okay. It was up and down today. Gastronomic was depending on what the speeches were about. It fell off for a while, but then it picked back up again at the end. Other than the table topics, I caught Larry Mackenzie using it twice. Muklas used it once, Ryan once, Marty I heard once, Thomas once, Samir once, and Larry Eggert once. If I missed any other ones, I am sorry. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Jill. Thank you for all our participants this morning. At this point, I'd like to turn control of the meeting over to our general evaluator, Jackie. You have something, Larry?
Did we have our grammarian report?
Jackie Kenny, grammarian. You know, I didn't have that written down. Grammarian, Samir. Samir gave his grammarian report.
You did.
Yes.
He did.
I didn't have my coffee.
That's okay. We're good. Thank you, Larry. Thanks for all your help, everyone. Return control of the meeting to General Evaluator Jackie Kenny. Take it away, Jackie.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Marty, no apologies, no excuses. We know you've had some challenges with your health lately. All is forgiven and things went along smoothly. Larry opened for you and got things going, and I thought it all went very well. And thank you for that lovely memory of your grandparents, of staying in their house, and how smells can also be part of memories. I thought our evaluators did a very good job this morning. I didn't hear Mark's evaluator chide him for going over time, which is unforgivable. None of us should be going over time once we're past that newbie stage as evaluators or as speakers in Toastmasters. Eric, same thing for you. If you had cut it off at your toast, and I think your evaluator should have told you that, ended at your toast, dropped your little movie clips that you wanted to share with us, and save those for another time. Carol did a very good job evaluating him. Thomas did a very good job evaluating Gerald, and we all enjoyed Gerald's adventures. And Damien, thank you, everyone. Good morning, and I'll turn things back over to our Toastmaster of the day. Thanks, Marty.
Thank you very much, Jackie. And again, thank you everyone for participating this morning. At this point, my duty is complete, and I'm going to turn control of the meeting back to our presiding officer, Club President Eric Schneider.
Marty, thank you so much for a delicious meeting this morning. I would like to start off by congratulating our winners this morning. Please help me welcome and congratulating Bill Russell as our best table topics speaker of the day. Our best evaluator, congratulations to Thomas. Thomas, congratulations. And our best speaker is Dr. Gerald Stevens. Congratulations. Our Toastmaster for next week is Margot Subitner. And Margot, what is your theme?
My theme is wisdom on a coffee cup. I've got a collection of coffee cups that say all kinds of neat things. So I'd like to see everybody else's coffee mugs and what they possibly could say, or if there's a picture and something that you remember with them. Many people have already put on that they're going to be there. Please go to the website so I don't have to harass you, because you know I'm really good at that part of it, is making sure everybody signs up for their jobs. So we will see everybody next morning, and make sure you bring your coffee cup. Mine this morning is my cat lover cup, but I've got some more fun ones for next week.
All righty. Thank you so much, Margot. Looking forward to the theme of the meeting. I'd like to remind everyone, social hour tonight, 7 p.m. We'll have that in the chat. Are there any last minute announcements before I adjourn?
Yes, I would like to update everybody. The Surgeon General has announced that smoking can kill you. They've also announced now that bacon can kill you. But what they failed to tell you is that smoking bacon will find the cure.
Oh.
It fits the theme, I had to.
Well, thank you, Ryan, for that Thank you. That was good. All right. Fellow Toastmasters, have a great weekend. Stick around for post Toasties. Meeting adjourned. Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.